Great. So cool. We'll get started, and I'll just have you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Robert Lustig. I am a pediatric endocrinologist, so I study hormones in children. I am a professor in pediatric endocrinology at the University of California, San Francisco. I'm also a member of the Institute for Health Policy Studies here as well.
Can anybody name an energy source that has absolutely no function in the body, that we like a lot, but that is toxic in high dose? Alcohol, thank you. Alcohol. Alcohol is an energy source, but alcohol is not nutrition, yet we love it, yet it's toxic, and we regulate it. Sugar's the same thing, because fructose is metabolized exactly like alcohol. In fact, sugar is the alcohol of the child. And that's why children today are getting the diseases of alcohol, type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease, without drinking alcohol, because they've just substituted one addictive substance for another. Everybody got it? And that's, of course, why the food industry puts it in. Okay. So that explains this right here. So I call this slide very specifically the Coca Cola conspiracy, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, they haven't sued me yet. So over there on the left, 1915, the original 6.5-ounce bottle of Coca-Cola, standardized out of Atlanta. If you drank one of those every day for a year, that'd be worth 8 pounds of fat per year. Then, after World War II, when sugar became plentiful again after rationing, okay, we had the 10-ounce bottle, first one found in vending machines over there. That would be worth 13 pounds of fat per year. Okay. Then, of course, in 1960, we got the ever ubiquitous 12-ounce can, okay, which is worth 16 pounds of fat per year. And, of course, today, that is the single unit of measure over there, the 20-ounce bottle. It's the only one you can now find anywhere. And that's, if you drank one of those every day, that would be worth 26 pounds of fat per year. But how many servings are in that bottle? Anybody know? 2.5. 2.5 8-ounce servings in that bottle. Anybody know anybody who gets 2.5 8-ounce servings out of that? That's a single serving, okay? And then finally in the middle we have the 7-Eleven Big K Thirst Buster Big Gulp, 44 ounces worth 57 pounds per year. And my colleague Dr. Dan Hale tells me that down at the University of Texas San Antonio they got a Texas-sized Big Gulp. 60 ounces of Coca-Cola, Snickers bar, and a bag of Doritos, all for 99 cents. That is what processed food has brought us. That would be worth 112 pounds of fat per year. And by the way, in case you didn't know, on April 11th, that is this Saturday, 2 days from today, 7-Eleven is offering a promotion. Bring any vessel from your home that is not an inflatable pool and fill it up with Slurpee for $1.49. You think I'm kidding. I ain't kidding. Okay? That they will not take inflatable pools. Okay. So, oh, and before I get there. So why do I call it the Coca-Cola conspiracy? Well, what's in Coke? Let's start with something else. What? Caffeine, caffeine. Thank you, caffeine. So what's caffeine? It's a mild stimulant, and it's also a diuretic. Works on the kidney to make you urinate free water. What else is in Coke? Salt, 55 milligrams per can. So what happens if you take on salt and lose free water? You get thirstier, right? So why is there so much sugar in Coke? To hide the salt. I showed you that already. Now, do you have to make soda with salt? Anybody ever heard of Royal Crown Cola? It's long gone, okay? But you probably grew up with it, okay? Tastes bad? No, it was perfectly fine. 0 sodium. You don't have to put salt in Coke, but they do, because they know, because they get you to drink more. So, Coca-Cola conspiracy. They know what they're doing, and you don't. So here is the last 200 years of sugar consumption in the United States. Starting at 1820, when we got fruits and vegetables out of the ground with the occasional honey, it was worth about 4 pounds of sugar per year. And over here, we topped out at about 100 pounds of sugar per year. And you can see the different phases of sugar consumption and production in the United States. We had the growth of the sugar industry in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you know, in Louisiana, in the Bayou, and in Hawaii. Okay? And then we had stabilization where, you know, production, correlated with price, you know, so you reached equilibrium. Then you had rationing during World War II, as you can see there. And then it came back up to the same level. And then we had processed food. And then on top of that, we got high fructose corn syrup, which was half the price. And so what happened? Whew. Oh, and plus we went low fat, all at the same time. Everything happened at once. And so we went sailing over. So where is the sugar in our food right now? So half of it's in soft drinks, as you can see. And by the way, on April 22nd, our state legislators will be debating a soda label warning ban on the can or on the bottle. Okay, and I was actually in Sacramento lobbying for this for the California Center for Public Health Advocacy just 3 weeks ago. Okay, and I will tell you, I followed the chief scientist for Pepsi Cola, who was there as well, Danielle Greenberg. Fascinating. Okay, so you know what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, half of it's in soft drinks, but that means that half of it's not. Half of it's in stuff you didn't know had it, like salad dressing, barbecue sauce, tomato sauce, breakfast cereal, hamburger buns, hamburger meat, for that matter, yogurt. And who here thinks that yogurt is healthy? Plain yogurt is healthy. Okay? The Europeans eat plain yogurt and then throw whole fruit in to cut the sourness. Because, you know, like, what is yogurt? It's sour milk, right? What's the difference between yogurt and the milk that sours in your refrigerator? So for yogurt, you get to choose the bacteria that does the souring. That's it. That's the big difference. All right? But in America, yogurt is not sour milk. Yogurt is dessert. That's what's happened. That's what processed food brought us. Yogurt for dessert. Okay. So now we've agreed that consumption's up. Let's do health. So what's happened to health? I know what's happened to health care, okay, because I'm a doctor, and let me tell you, it sucks. But what's happened to health? So let's look. This is from the New England Journal. Let's look at what's happened. So smoking down, blood pressure down, cholesterol down, physical activity up. We should be reaping a health benefit from all of those things happening, right? Shouldn't we? Well, we're not. How come? Because obesity's up and diabetes is way up. Off the charts. In every developed and developing country. Right? India, 11% diabetes. China, 11% diabetes. We're only at 9.3% diabetes, but another 40% of us are pre-diabetic. So just diabetes waiting to happen. And that is cutting our lives short. And that is reducing money going into the system. And it's increasing the money going out of the system, which we'll talk about when we get to cash flow. So here's the problem right here. It's on this slide. Everybody remember Coca Cola's Coming Together campaign from 2 years ago? It was on all the football games. This was their response to the obesity epidemic. And this is a direct quote from their campaign commercial. Beating obesity will take action by all of us based on one simple common sense fact. All calories count, no matter where they come from, including Coca-Cola and everything else with calories. In other words, you can get your calories from carrots, or you can get your calories from cheesecake, or you can get your calories from Coca-Cola, or you can get your calories from kumquats. Doesn't matter. If you eat more than you burn, you'll gain weight. If you eat less than you burn, you will lose weight. Therefore, a calorie is a calorie. It's about calorie balance. It's about you eat too much, you exercise too little. It's about diet and exercise. It's about if you're fat, it's your fault. It's about any calorie can be part of a balanced diet. And it's about why pick on our calories, go pick on somebody else's calories. Now, every one of those mantras has been ingrained across your forehead over the last 50 years. A calorie is a calorie. And it's common sense. They say so. You know what? I don't believe in common sense. I believe in science. I believe in data. And what the data say are completely different. What the data say are that some calories cause disease more than others because different calories are metabolized differently in the body. It's called nutritional biochemistry. And you want to know the kicker of all this? I learned this in college. I majored in nutritional biochemistry at MIT. In 1975, I knew this. And then I went to medical school. And they beat it out of me. And I forgot all this. Because that wasn't what we learned in medical school. We learned a calorie was a calorie. We learned obesity was the problem. We learned that if you eat too much and you exercise too little, you gain weight. And we learned that that fat that you gained caused all of the metabolic disturbances that we now see. And then I started doing my own research in 1995. And you know what? By 2005, I was absolutely convinced a calorie was not a calorie. And I came to the realization, wait a second. I started having night sweats. I started waking up in the middle of the night with like post-traumatic stress disorder. Because like, I knew this. And I had lost it. And I got it back. Maybe that's why I'm so passionate about it now, is because medical education does not discuss this, because they don't get it. They don't understand it. And this is sort of one of the seminal ends of the stool, you know, that you can basically, you know, hold on to. And if you kick that out from under, what happens to, you know, your understanding of physiology, of science, of nutrition, of biochemistry, and of health? Basically, we're kicking it out from under. And people don't want it kicked out. And so there's this big fight, this big tension. And that's why we're having this discussion now. But a calorie is not a calorie. Now, how do I know that? Because we have the data. So here is a study from Europe called the EPIC Interact study. And what they did was they asked, do sugared sweetened beverages cause diabetes? So if you look at the red box at the bottom, what they did was it's called the adjusted model. They looked at every sugared beverage per day, adjusted for its calories and adjusted for its effects on obesity by BMI. And they showed that every sugar beverage increases your risk for diabetes by 29%. And we're not consuming one sugar beverage, we're consuming 2.5 on average. So take that up to 68%. Okay. We did this study, which didn't look at consumption, we looked at availability within countries. What we did was we took the Food and Agriculture Organization statistics database, which listed line item, country by country for the entire decade, 2000 to 2010. Total calories, fruits excluding wine, meats, cereals, fiber-containing foods, oils, sugar crops, and sweeteners. Line by line, item by item, for the whole decade, country by country. We then regressed that with the International Diabetes Federation statistics database for diabetes prevalence, country by country for the same period. And then we regressed that with the World Bank Gross National Income Database, which controls for poverty, urbanization, aging, physical activity, and obesity, all the confounders. Remember, you have to adjust for the confounders when you do science, right? And we asked the question, what about the world's diet predicts diabetes change country by country over the decade? And the answer, only sugar. Nothing else. Nothing else even came close. For every 150 calories extra any country ate, diabetes prevalence went up a total of 0.1%. Nada. But if those 150 calories happened to be a can of soda instead, diabetes prevalence went up 11-fold. 1.1%. And again, we're not drinking 1 soda a day, we're drinking 2.5. This study actually meets the criteria which were set up by Austin Bradford Hill back in the 60s to implicate tobacco and lung cancer. That is dose, more sugar, more diabetes. Duration, longer sugar exposure, more diabetes. Directionality, countries where sugar went up, more diabetes. Countries where sugar went down, and there were a few, less diabetes. And most importantly, for causation, you have to show precedence. 3 years. Whenever sugar changed, diabetes changed in the same direction 3 years later. That's causation. Same level of proof we have today for tobacco and lung cancer. Okay? Okay. Why? Here's why. Because sugar drives fat accumulation in the liver. That's why. Because when you put fat in your liver, then your pancreas has to make more insulin, and that burns out the pancreas and causes diabetes. And you can see from this study from my colleague Jean-Marc Schwartz, that was just in JCNM like 3 weeks ago. You can see that you can do the control period and then the sugar, or you can do the sugar period, then the control. Bottom line, it doesn't matter. The amount of liver fat went up 38% for the same number of calories over a 2-week period. And that drives insulin resistance, and that drives increased pancreatic insulin release, which then drives chronic metabolic disease. And we just had an abstract at the Endocrine Society just a month ago, and you can read it here. Restricting fructose in obese Latino and African American children reduces fat accumulation in the liver. 30% reduction on the same number of calories in 10 days, which also improved their insulin resistance and every other aspect of their metabolic health without changing weight. It didn't change their subcutaneous or big butt fat. It changed their visceral fat, and it absolutely lowered their liver fat. Same number of calories, because a calorie is not a calorie. And this is for heart disease death. This was published last year by Yang et al. From Harvard School of Public Health and the CDC. So what you're looking at here is a histogram of percent of calories consumed as added sugar over a 2-decade period. And the median of this histogram is 18%. Can you believe that? Half the country consumed more than 18% of their calories as added sugar. That's insane. It's supposed to be 4%. It was at 18%. Okay? Now that red line in the center is the hazard risk ratio for heart disease death. And the inflection point is at 15%. Median's 18%, inflection point 15%. So what does that mean? It means that more than half of the United States has an increased risk of heart disease death due to their added sugar consumption. Controlling for obesity, controlling for calories, just because of the added sugar. Because it's not about the calories, and it's not about the obesity. Alcohol is not dangerous because it's calories. Alcohol is not dangerous because it causes obesity. Alcohol is dangerous because it's alcohol. Sugar is the same thing. It's dangerous because it's sugar, because of its unique stereochemistry and because of what it does and because of how the liver metabolizes it, because it's not necessary, because it's not really a nutrient. It's an energy source, it's not a nutrient. In fact, we have causation for these 4 diseases, and these 4 diseases will be on that warning label if the California State Legislature passes the motion. Diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, and tooth decay. We have causation for every single one of those. The ones we only have correlation for today, so we don't discuss them yet, is cancer and dementia. But I'm really interested in both of those. And I just met with Stan Prusner, the Nobel Prize winner up at UCSF, about whether or not sugar could cause dementia and how we might be able to actually look at that question going forward in the next couple of years.